Okay, it's the middle of the day and I am in the process of making some mango salsa for some fish I'm going to cook this evening. And I like to make this salsa a little ahead of time, several hours actually, so that it can marinate in the fridge while all day long and just let those flavors kind of infuse together. So what I'm preparing this evening for dinner is going to be some blackened tilapia. I picked up some white fish yesterday at the DeKalb Farmers Market because I was passing through Atlanta and they have the most amazing seafood department there. So I picked up a little bit of fish, and I'm also going to cook some black beans and rice, and I'm going to put a little bit of a Jamaican flair on it. I'm going to cook it with some coconut milk and green onions. I have some green onions growing on my deck, and I'm going to put a little garlic in there and some salt and pepper, a little bit of sugar, and that will be the Jamaican beans and rice. I know that's something that my kids will eat. I'm not real sure about the fish yet. I used to cook this fish all the time, but they were so much younger then, and I didn't even expect for them to eat it then, so tonight we're going to try it out and see. So let me go ahead and show you this salsa that I'm putting together here. These are some mangoes from Brazil, and I've cut them down into bite-sized pieces. And then over here I have some lime juice. That's about 2 to 3 tablespoons. And I've added red pepper flakes to that. Just I'm letting them soak so that they're not real hard in the salsa. The reason why I'm doing that is because this recipe really calls for jalapeno peppers, and I forgot to pick some up at the market yesterday. So I'm substituting the red pepper flakes, though it is really good with the jalapeno peppers, and I'm really going to miss it in this salsa. I just already know that, but I do not feel like running out to the store and getting the peppers now. So anyway, so here's the cilantro over here. I picked up an entire bunch of cilantro and I finely chopped it down, and that's much more than any recipe would normally call for. That's probably 4 tablespoons, very sizable tablespoons, mind you. But I love the flavor of fresh cilantro, so every bit of that's going to go into salsa. And then over here I finely chopped some red onion. And one thing about red onion, keep in mind whenever you're cooking with any kind of onion, as a matter of fact, if it's raw, you'll want to use it very sparingly, because that flavor is going to intensify once you have it sitting like in the fridge in the salsa. It's going to really become strong, and this goes for any kind of salsa you make or salads or anything like that. I always add just a tiny bit. I probably just put a teaspoon in this salsa. I'm not going to put all of that, and then I can always add more later, and that's the rule. That's my rule of thumb. Whenever I cook, I can always add more later, but it's hard to take things out once you've already got that flavor in there. So if there's something you're unsure about, don't add too much. Just be a little careful with it. And then I'm also going to add some sea salt and some pepper, some cracked black pepper. Okay, so first I'll just start with this red onion here. I'm just going to put a tiny bit in here. And like I said, I'm going to add all of the cilantro and all of my lime juice with red pepper flakes. A little bit of salt. This is going to help bring out the juices too. It'll make it kind of like a little bit of a sauce almost when I put it over my fish this evening. And a little bit of red pepper, cracked black pepper. And I'll just give this a good stir. Hopefully I have enough lime juice in there. Turn and a little stir, little turn, little stir. Okay, so I really stirred that up very well, especially I wanted to get that lime juice all throughout. And I'm going to cover this, and I'm going to stick it in my fridge for about 5 or 6 hours. I'm going to go ahead and start on my Jamaican beans and rice. I went ahead and laid out my mango salsa. I took it out of the refrigerator just to kind of get it at room temperature. I think that the flavors kind of married together, I guess, a little bit better when it's at room temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and start on this Jamaican beans and rice. And as I said before, I've substituted my red beans with black beans, and it always turns out fine. And I'm using a jasmine rice instead of just a regular rice, because that's just what I have, and I always just typically use what I have, whatever I can pull out of my pantry. So what this Jamaican beans and rice calls for, it calls for some thyme, and I went ahead and cut a few sprigs of thyme from outside. I happen to have that. Fresh thyme, and I'm going to drop those stems right in the rice, And I'll just pull the, and the leaves will probably fall off while they're cooking, and then I'll just pull the stems out before I serve it. I have 2 cans of black beans, and I have 1½ cups of rice, which I have already rinsed just to get, you know, the powdery residue, I guess it's on the outside of the grain, to get that off to keep it from being too gummy. And then over here I have a teaspoon of sugar. No, I'm sorry, it's a teaspoon of, yes, a teaspoon of sugar, a teaspoon of salt, and then some cracked black pepper. And I have some green onion that I pulled from outside also just a little while ago. And I've chopped up a lot of garlic, even though the recipe only calls for 1½ cloves. And I'll probably end up putting about 2 cloves, which that one's actually 4 or 5 cloves. So I won't put all of that in there. I'll just reserve some for later for cooking something else later. And then I have my can of unsweetened coconut milk. And this is 13.5 fluid ounces. My recipe actually calls for 2 cups of unsweetened coconut milk. And so this is just shy of 2 cups. So I am going to cheat a little bit and put a little bit of water in there because I don't want to open another whole can of coconut milk and then, you know, have to figure out what to do with that tomorrow. So the leftover anyway. So I am going to just use 1 can for this recipe, and then for my water, the recipe calls for 1¼ cups, and I have measured out 1½ cups. And of course, you can always add more liquid. And again, I'm going to go back to my rule of thumb. You can always add more of something, but you can't take it out. So again, I'm not going to add too much liquid to this. I'll just see how it goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by boiling my water and my coconut milk. I'm bringing it to just a soft boil. Usually when I cook rice, I'll bring my water to a hard boil. It just cooks better that way, but since this has coconut milk in it, I don't want to scald it or whatever. I don't know that I could do that. But, and also, don't be scared about using coconut milk either, because I mean, if you read the label, it's like all the saturated fat that's in coconut milk. It's like, oh my goodness, it's just awful. But it's my understanding is that it's a medium chain fatty acid, and so your liver processes that different than it would, say, an animal saturated fat. So don't be scared of using coconut milk. It's actually pretty good for you. The coconut milk looks more like a coconut cream. Let that cook down. It should be fine once it warms up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add my rice. And let's see, my salt and pepper and sugar. Give it a little stir. So the rice sticks to the bottom. It only took about probably 3 minutes for that coconut milk to liquefy. I'll add my thyme. It gives it a really good flavor. Add a little bit of the garlic. 1 clove, 2 cloves. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to add my green onion and my black beans here in just a few minutes. I want to get this rice cooking really well first before I add those. Okay, I have finished cooking the coconut rice and beans here, and I am about to cook this blackened fish. And I went ahead and coated it with butter, and then I sprinkled some blackening season on it. And you're supposed to use a cast iron skillet with butter to blacken fish, but I do not have a cast iron skillet right now, and so I went ahead and put some butter in here, but I also added a little bit of safflower oil, which is a very good high heating oil, and I am just going to fry this fish with that, so hopefully it won't burn up on me here. We'll see what happens. I'll let that cook about 3 minutes on each side. Okay, it looks done. I may have actually overcooked this fish a little bit, but I want to make sure it had a nice crispy outside because it will be a nice texture against the salsa. So I'm going to let that drain a little bit here on this paper towel. Okay, so this dish right here that I just prepared was for my son, who's 11. He's going to eat a little bit ahead of the family tonight, and he said he would try the mango salsa on his fish, so we'll see how he likes it. He's starting to try a lot of new things, so I'm all proud of him for that. So we'll see what he thinks.
Yeah. It's pretty darn good.
All right. Well, that's what I like to hear.
The mango complements the food very well.
Wonderful.
That the central banks have shown that they will refuse to allow any market-based solutions that would increase the purchasing power of money and allow asset prices to deflate. So people now know that there's going to be endless printing. Rather than default, rather than people losing money, the government is going to have money lose value instead. And so that is why I think gold is now rising as opposed to falling, because that reality is now clearer to more and more people.
Oh, I got a bag of paper bag, and here's a country rag, $1 down, $1 a day. Yeah, I got a little one-act play. Oh, open up the windows. Yeah, I've been caught cold. Yeah, have a little no-dose. Can you hear me in the headphones? Road turkeys in the lobby. Baby, this is just a hobby. Just a little thin report. Yeah, I've been caught short, but I can't get past how do you do. I don't know what to say.